down the hammer and pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
Welcome to the Investor Empowerment Series radio show, empowering your real estate investing with techniques, opportunities, and information, minus the BS and sales pitches. Now, please welcome the host of the Investor Empowerment Series, Joe Mueller, from the Tough as Nails Investment Syndicate. Joe Mueller.
We're back again with the Investor Empowerment Series radio show. This is episode number 15, and this one's one of the best ones ever. Today's guest is my new BFF, which I'm going to confirm on the show, Steven Van Cowenberg out of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Steven started from nothing. He's a blue-collar guy and has built his way up to 135 units and multi-million dollars in wealth. We're going to talk about private money, we're going to talk about motivation, and we're going to talk about the importance of maintaining your reputation and credibility. You've got to hear this episode. I love it. I love him. He's a great guy to have. He's written books. He's an entrepreneur. Don't miss it. Stay tuned. Steven, thanks for coming on the show today. Can you tell me a little bit more about yourself and your business?
Well, first of all, I am excited to be on here. This is my first legitimate interview with a video/audio. A little bit about myself. I'm just honored. I know when I told you that, I am honored to be interviewed by you because you're like my only fan out there. I got like two. It's my wife and you. Like when I send you stuff, you buy it for $5. I'm like, there's so many cheap people out there that they just want it free or they don't want to work at it. And that's right. When you ask me, I didn't have to think about it. I was like, absolutely. This guy, he's doing it. I'm pumped that you're doing a podcast because you're going to reach someone. You're going to say the one thing at the one time that's going to pump somebody up or get it done or make that call. And their life's going to change forever. And then you'll be at a bar at a nightclub and someone will roll up to you. Joe, you changed my life.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's true. You never know when you're going to get that one thing. But anyway, let's
talk about me following you because there's a reason. I mean, you're bringing it out there and you're putting like the real information that people need to hear on the radio waves. I mean, you've got experience. You've got people that are coming on your show you've got one guy that's got like 500 properties you've interviewed before. I mean, that's just crazy stuff. And yourself, I mean, I know you have a large number of units and we're going to talk about that today. But, I mean, how can I go wrong by following somebody like you? That's what I figure. So...
Yeah, I mean, that dude's in my market. He's like 10 years ahead of me. I think he's like about 50 or so.
Yeah.
And I've learned so much from him. Like,
sure.
He one time I was in his office and I was like, I got this ghetto rental. I don't want to put central heat and air. He's like, oh, put wall heaters in there. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, at Home Depot, $60, you can get a 120 heater. You jump it off the outlet. Just that one thing, meeting with that one guy, one random thing at his office, now I can heat and air a ghetto crib real easy.
Right. Does that come with AC too?
No, that's just the heater, but you can go buy 100, you could do a whole house for like $600, $1,000 versus, putting in a new central heat and air, which is $5,000. I don't know what it is out there in Chi-Town, but
right. For
me, I can get a whole house done for under $1,000. Now, I'm away from these properties. This is 4 or 5 years ago.
Sure.
But I was just excited that he wanted to come on, and I think we learned something from him. Just motivation. Just like, dude, this guy did it. Why can't I do it? And he's not sexy. I look at this guy. I mean, I'm trying to be friends. He's no friends. He's just business. And so,
right.
But if this guy can do it, I mean, anyone can do it.
Sure. No, I love it. No, that's awesome. That's what it's all about, man. I mean, that's how you get started, and I think there's a lot of information that goes around out there that a newer investor gets sold on some type of product or a course or whatever, and then they're getting all excited. They show up for their course, for their boot camp for the weekend after they dished out some serious coin, and after their 2 or 3 days, it's like, okay, now what? Now I got to be an investor.
But there
I
are
know.
people out there that take the next step, and those are the people that have taken those steps, like you know, are the ones that are going to truly push that investor to the next level. That's why it's so important to have somebody like you on my show.
You know what's so crazy is that there's two students. You know, I don't really coach people. I just kind of got ushered into it. But there's two guys that I'm coaching right now that paid 30 grand to Fortune Builders or 40 grand. Mm-hmm. They got the course, and then, you know, and I can't clown or make fun of Fortune Builders. I mean, people are willing to pay $40,000 to learn, but then I think a lot of people just think that they spend 40 grand and they're going to be a millionaire tomorrow. Right. Like, it doesn't matter if you spend 40 or buy my little ghetto $20 book. You just have to do what it says. I mean, it's just that simple. But people think that spending 40 grand is going to get them it's just going to rain gold.
Right. The keys. When really, in a market like you're in Oklahoma, $40,000, that can buy a whole house, right?
That can do well if you leverage that mess out.
Sure.
I mean, you could easily make that several $100,000. I mean, you can buy 2 ghetto rent houses for 40, 20 each, or you can buy one that would yield around $700 to $800 a month.
Sure.
And so in 3 to 5 years, you have your investment back, and you just did that real slow.
Right.
You know.
Let's touch on real quick where I actually met you and where the experience between me engaging in the Savvy Landlord Radio show began, which was actually last year at the Ohio Real Estate Investors Association convention.
Yeah, where I'm going back, Daddy. I booked my hotel.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'm going to be back there with Eddie, who also is. If there's only 2 fans, then there's definitely 3, because Eddie McCracken is a big fan of yours.
Well, I'm a fan of that dude just because of his name, McCracken. you got to get McCracken up in this mother.
Oh, he's going to love that you that you gave him a shout out.
He's all muscle bound, you know.
He is. He is very much. If he's not working on properties, he's in the gym.
He's inspiring, you know. I don't want that body, but it looks good.
Yeah, it does. It looks great.
It's like a little chub on me. It keeps me humble.
So we're at this convention, and we went, you and I, Eddie, I think it was about 40 investors in the room, and it was like a private session before the actual 3-day convention began. So I think it was like a Thursday, and it was like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the convention. And it was, I don't remember the exact name of it, but it was basically you had to have like 100 units or more or 50 units or more in order to be in this room with these people. And that convention in itself somewhat changed my whole outlook on what I've been doing in real estate. And I'm sure just like a power investor like you in the room, your insight, it took us a full day to pretty much get through the entire room of who everyone was, what they did, how they got where they started. And I walked out of there with Eddie, and I was like, man, we got to charge this up. I mean, like, there's people out there that, there was one guy in that room, I think he had like 400 or 500 rentals, been doing it for like 10 years. He had like 2 staff members, and I'm like, how's that even possible?
How about that kid that had all those apartments?
Which one was that?
He was like on the back row, opposite of me. He was a young kid. That's all he did was apartments, and he had like several hundred units. Or how about the old guy that didn't know what to do to retire? I was like, let me buy those units off you, homie.
Sure.
That I was inspired when I left there. Right. I did feel, and then the guy I sat next to, did you know Bob?
I didn't know Bob, but I met Bob. Yeah, sure.
Okay, did you know he made $1 million through his IRA?
No.
Yeah, like I'm going to interview him for my podcast, but you should. The guy next to me, the one that emceed the whole thing, the guy that
I remember. Yeah.
He started out with $1,000 in his Roth IRA or his self-directed IRA and built it up to over $1 million. And he's just a regular guy. Like, he's just madly in love with IRAs and that type of traditional funding.
Sure.
I had dinner with him. You know, he inspired me. I'm about to do my first private lend this week.
Oh, so you're going to be lending out of your IRA?
Yeah, out of my self-directed IRA.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you tell us about it?
Well, it's only $50K, so it's not like something Chicago can do. But basically, I mean, this is my whole thing of why I'm all into private money as of today, is that you have this money in this account from your job or wherever you put it in. If you put it in a Roth IRA, you're able to loan that money out at whatever terms you would like, and you get a return, and you don't have to pay tax on it. It goes right back into your IRA. It's a safe investment. For me, as a real estate investor, I know deals. I was looking at a property the other day. This guy said that he was going to flip it for 80. He got it under contract for 43. I drove over there. It needed about 10 or 15,000. He said 10 or 50. He said 10. I'm thinking 20 but he's a contractor. But I'm going to loan him $40,000, and he's going to make 20 grand off that transaction.
Right.
And then I'm going to make 4 points. I'll probably make $2,000 off of loaning him $40,000 in 6 months.
Perfect.
So, I mean, I've never done it before, but it's just money just sitting. I know it's just sitting in a bank account that you can't really make money off of stocks. You can, but you can't. And as a real estate, and I got this IRA because of my father-in-law is all into stocks. And if you're going to marry my wife, have some sort of retirement. I'm like, buddy, I got retirement. But, people just don't get it, right? So I appeased him by now after 10 years, I got 50 grand in there. And I'm like, I told my wife, I'm pulling that deal. That's just a waste of time. So I flipped it over to a self-directed IRA. And then now I'm loaning it out for the first time. But this guy did the same thing, started maybe 10 years ago, maybe less. I mean, you should interview him. I don't know. I just know him enough, and I vetted him out. I asked several people, is this guy legit? Right. Because I don't want this dude on my radio show, and he's a charlatan. And he did. I called him out, too. I called him because I was trying to do a loan, and he knew exactly what I was talking about. He's a really good, cool guy, so I'll give you his number.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Or we'll see him next week or next month or 2 months, right? We'll see him anyway.
Yeah, I think it's in October, right?
November 1st.
A couple months away.
Yeah.
Who's your custodian for your IRA? Using that Innovations that you brought up?
No, I like him. That's so crazy you asked me that because I felt bad. I keep running into him, and I like him.
Right.
But, my little friend was down in Houston uses SunWest Trust out of Nashville. And my friend's real cheap like me, and he's just like flat fee, no percentage. And so I get to call him and ask him questions like I called him over the weekend. I'm like, hey, how do I set this up? How do I start wiring money to people?
Right.
And he's like, just call SunWest. But I like that Mike guy, though. That's why I interviewed him. And another friend of mine, Ed O'Toole, right? Do you know him? He was in that meeting with us. He's from Springfield. He turned into a builder, but he uses Mike IRA Innovation. He's the one that turned me on to him.
Sure. No, I mean, that was an incredible podcast you recorded. I listened to that one twice, and I actually contacted Mike afterwards because I had some questions as well about how I can get I've got some money socked away in an annuity.
Cool.
I started a long time ago.
Good.
And I'm working on getting that transferred over right now because I finished listening to that podcast, and I'm thinking to myself, why am I not using that money and just doing exactly what you said? Taking whatever number it is, taking the $100,000, lending it to someone else, vetting out the deal, knowing if the numbers work, and then maybe it comes back with 105 or 110. And
if he defaults, in my market, if the guy defaults, like I drove over there, walked in it, if he defaulted, it's an $80,000 house.
Right. So
I'm not that. Yeah, so
double
that's
your money.
Yeah, right. And then I would sell it for exactly. So why, like you said, like you thought, like why did I not do that?
And as an interesting point to that, I just bought a house. I bought it at the court auction in our area, and you know how it is. It's like a 24-hour turnaround. You got to have the cash back to the sheriff, right? So I contacted a guy I've known for about 10 years out of Florida, and I had been chatting with him about investing a little bit. He does some investing. He's down in Florida, so he's kind of taking advantage of that market. And I said, I just locked up. It was $25,000 as a deposit. I had the money in order to continue forward in cash, and I thought, I just need to if I can get this extra 75 in somehow. And he goes, oh man, I got 85 in my IRA. I'm like, okay. He goes, well, I'll give you the money. So it was like, boom. 24 hours later, he's wiring money into my account. So I did my first private lending closing, or not even a closing really, my first private loan through an IRA where he lent money to me. So
right on.
It's out there, man. I mean, yeah, and he's making money. It's 3 points. Be paying 12% on the money, which is what we agreed to, but it's going to be kind of a short-term thing. So it all worked out on my end, and the house is worth 160 or so. So I'm real happy about that transaction.
Okay, a couple quick questions. First of all, we should tell people that stop thinking about the interest rate. You're lucky you got a free asset.
Right.
I get a lot of young people call me, text me, oh my God, 16%, 12%. And I used to think that way.
Right.
But when I look at it, I'm making money from free money. Right. And so I just want people that just heard what he just said, he paid 12%, 3 points.
Right.
Like that's a deal. Like you didn't have to give your credit card. You didn't have to pay for an appraisal, maybe not. You didn't have to give him your social. And
right.
And so my other question for you is, so people out there just want to get that effing clear. Don't worry about the interest rate. Just get the deal done, and you can always refinance or sell it. Who is this custodial? Do you know?
I believe it was Equity Trust.
Right on.
That's who he's using down
That's
there.
cool. Everybody uses Equity Trust.
Yeah. They're a big name out there. And he actually funded the whole thing, so it was 100%. He ended up having more in the IRA. At the time I was saying, well, I only need 75, and he's like, oh yeah, I've got at least 85 in there. He comes back to me, he has over 100 in there. So he actually funded back the original deposit of the 25. I had to put down 25,000, and then gave me the 75 to pay the whole balance off for the sheriff. So I'm zero in money on the deal on my side. Got a $160,000 asset at $100,000. Yeah, I'm paying points and 12%, but it's all going to work out. And it came with tenants in it too, which is kind of interesting. So they're actually paying
cash flow right at the gate.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's kind of a break even at this point, but once I'm finished with the property, it's going to be great asset for me. So,
well, check this out. So I'm going to call you back today or tomorrow. We're going to record that and
cool.
put that on my Best Deal Friday. I have not done one, and I would love to hear that because that's just it's. I mean, how long you been an investor?
15 years ish.
But I mean, you're just smooth about it. You're very comfortable with that transaction. And about 5 years ago, I would be kind of nervous. And I mean, that's a no money down deal without pre-approval. I mean, that's rock star. No wonder you have a little podcast.
Hopefully, yep.
I mean, no wonder. I mean, man, I got to start listening to your stuff.
Hopefully, you get something out of it. I try.
Yeah, I mean, you just motivate. I mean, another thing you need to tell your listeners out there, you got to just repeat yourself, not yourself like over and over. You got to listen to that CD about private money. I learned about private money 7 years ago, maybe longer, but I was insecure. Like I have no degree. I'm a dropout. I'm ghetto. I got tattoos. I'm blue collar, uneducated by society. I never thought that anyone would loan me money. And and it's so easy. Not easy in a negative way. Right. I mean, you have credibility. I'm an investor, but...
Well, you mentioned something. You said private money CD. What's that? You said you listen to the private money CD.
Oh, man, I listen... Like what CDs I'm listening to?
I know. You just made a comment as you were starting that sentence. Like, I listened to this private money CD, and then thinking about, how I can borrow private money, but I'm just this blue-collar guy. So did you get some information somehow?
Well, yeah, 7 years ago, I went to a course in Dallas. My cousin and I bought the freaking course for $2,000. I don't even know if we want to get into this, but this is a true story. 7 or 8 years ago, I was in Dallas at a private money. It was a real estate seminar. I was like really getting serious about it. And so my cousin was really getting serious about it. He's like, let's do it. So let's meet in Dallas. So he flew in from San Francisco. I drove from Oklahoma City. And I'm sitting through, and this guy, he's not far from you, Alan Cogill.
Yep, familiar with the name, yep.
So the private money guru guy. So I'm going through this class, and I'm thinking, of course I bought the course. It was $2,000. We split it. I've never opened the damn course since then. I'm being serious. Like, this is a true story. This is like, I got to get the exact date. It's got to be at least 7 years ago, maybe more. And so that day was the day that I wanted to write the book. And the reason why I wanted to write The Savvy Landlord, because it would be instant credibility. It would be, and it works. It works in locally at my banks. Like when I go to a bank and sign loans and they're introducing me to the vice president or the senior president, he's like, oh, this is the guy that wrote the book. Well, they don't know that I hired somebody $50 an hour. Now, I wrote the book and I'm specific on what I put in the book and it's authentic. And why I really wrote it, but I did, the seed was planted that for me I knew that one day banks were going to stop loaning me money. They were going to catch on that I'm some blue collar guy, that they're going to figure it out. And then one day they're going to say, hey, you can't borrow no more.
Sure.
And that hasn't happened though. 10 years later, I'm still getting funding, but I realize for me, there's a deal that I'm trying to buy in Florida that is a really large deal. And if I had private money, and I'm pushing myself, 4 years ago, I interviewed a guy for the book, and he was buying property all over the country. And I'm like, there's no way he could do that. And he is. And I don't even buy property 30 miles from me because I'm nervous. I don't want to drive over there. I don't want to deal with ghetto tenants.
Right.
But 4 years later, after I wrote the book, I'm like, I want to push myself. But if I knew if I had private money – and I'm in the middle of underwriting, and I think I got the loan. But the point is, I'm hot and horny on private money that I learned about 10 years ago. So it's all coming in, it's in progression. It's like someone's going to listen to this podcast. It's not easy doing what you're doing. It's labor intensive. There's no return on your investment. Yeah, now we're tight. I remember what you look like. I've been emailing you for a year. I'm like, who is this guy, Joe from Chicago? And then you're like, do you have a CD? I'm like, yeah. And you buy it. I'm like, wow. But there's a relationship there. Will I loan you private money? Absolutely. Because it would be worth me. Hey, I'll fly to Chicago, look at this deal, write it off on my taxes.
Yep.
But it all started with a course that I never listened to, and I'm now listening to the course, and now I'm all into private money. And, I would have never done the podcast if it wasn't for my wife. It's very labor intensive. There's no return on investment. Yeah, there's cool people like you that text me and motivate me, but you're ready for a long road, my friend.
Yeah.
So you can always put me on your radio show. On your show, because I'll juice you up.
Thank you.
It's hard. Anyway, I don't know if we answered any questions, but the point is, one, don't worry about the interest. Two, start prospecting now for private money. Don't be a puss like I was, low self-esteem, didn't think I could do it. Start building your credibility kit now. I'm just now, and I learned this the other day, you have to have artificial deadlines. And so I set a goal in 10 days, I'm going to get this credibility kit done because I'm going to go to a party. It might be my daughter's fundraiser for her school for the ballet, whatever, which is going to be murder for me to go there. But I'm going to meet some millionaire guy who is, I met some guy on the beach not too long ago. He was an anesthesia doc has so much money, didn't know what to do with it. Well, let me help you.
That's awesome.
But I didn't have a credibility kit. I just said, hey, go to my website, savvylandlord.me, and then is he really going to take the initiative? No, but if I took his phone number, his email, and said, hey, this is my credibility information.
Right.
If you want to get a return for your $100,000, I would love to talk to you about it.
So the next private money lending opportunity is right around the corner. You just got to be ready for it, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Now, how'd you meet that guy?
Met him at a conference. But like I said, it was probably originally it was back in like 2006 or 7, and we kind of just maintained contact. And he's a broker out of Florida. I'm always curious about getting some waterfront property and getting on a boat someday. That's like my dream. So we stay in touch. He's doing foreclosures out there. And
what city?
He's in Tampa.
Okay, cool.
Interesting market down there. I mean, there's a lot of lower price assets down there where people, even during the downturn, you might have seen some of it going for $10,000-$15,000 for single family properties. I mean, it's insane. And that always kept my curiosity perked, and I was like, "Hey, man, what's going on?" Like, I'll email him every couple months, be like, "What's going on down there? Got any good deals? You got to have good deals at those prices." Now he's a little more particular about where he buys, but he's flipping, he's selling REO, so we have some similar backgrounds because I'm selling REO up here in Chicago. Before we digress off that, though, you mentioned a credibility kit. So for the listeners out there, why don't we break down actually what a credibility kit is for when you're looking for private money?
All right, so I usually don't like to speak on something that I haven't done or I'm an expert in.
What it is, though.
Okay. So basically, I think it's a big fat resume of what you can do for someone else. So it talks about your background. I think it also talks about what your goals and agenda are as a company. And I think that a lot of people are confused. I've been reading a lot about credibility kits because I'm going to try to do a podcast on it. But I think you need to come from a business perspective. Don't come from, hey, I'm Joe and I'm cool. Say, hi, I'm blank blank LLC, and this is what I do. And then I think you should have in there what you've done, your accomplishments, but then what you're going to do, but also like deals that you've done before and after photos.
Sure.
One credibility kit really turned me on. It had a bunch of FAQs. I think that your main goal in prospecting and getting private money is to educate that person. They've worked hard for that $50,000, $100,000, $1 million sitting in a bank account that's not yielding what it needs to be. It's not easy to relinquish that, to give that to you.
Sure.
So you have to give them the credibility as credit that hey, I'm worthy. Some people gain it. Some people grasp it. Some people they run from it. And I found out that because they're uneducated. So your job is to truly educate as many people as you can on why they should be loaning private money, and not necessarily to you, but just in general, just to make, there's an amazing book, and I don't know if you've read this, but I would get it today. It's called The Banker's Code. It is from, have you heard George Antone?
I have the book, yes. I'm familiar. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a little book. I mean, it's a couple-hour read, but man, it blew my mind that this really happens. Not because private money is sexy for people because it's no credit, it's easy, it's no money down. But in reality, I put up my whole empire on that little $50,000 loan. Like, if you were willing to loan me money, I'm like, Joe, here's my assets. Here's everything. And if I default, I think you have a right to attack my. And I think that's what integrity is.
Sure. Yeah.
But anyway, so Credibility Kit just basically educates them on what you're doing, that they should invest in you, that there should be a return, there should be references, letters of reference. Okay. And I've checked this out. So I talked to a guy that I'm interviewing a bunch of people coming up, and one guy called. I was like, "Hey, buddy, I know you do private money. He's got California money. He's in Oklahoma. I interviewed him. His name is Ben Poskowski. He's like way down there in mine. He actually moved to Oklahoma from Oregon, California-ish, to invest here. I don't know if you heard that podcast. It's a great podcast. Like I was like, you got balls for coming here. Right. And I called him the other day, like just last week, and I was like, bro, I'm working on my credibility. He's like, what's that? I said, he's been borrowing millions of dollars without a credibility kit.
Wow.
He didn't even know what it was. So. Wow. When I coach people, they're like, well, I got to go out and get an LLC. No, you need to go out and get a deal. Don't even think about money.
Right.
Go learn how to farm, learn how to network, learn how to develop a relationship so a wholesaler or a seller will give you the property.
Sure. Because if you find the deal, you'll be able to find the money.
Yeah.
Right?
So, yeah, I think so. I know. I've not had a problem, and I've had no money at my lifetime.
All right. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about you. I want the listeners to know who you are. I want to help build up some of what you got out there. Like you mentioned your book a bunch of times. Why don't we talk about the book? Because I know that I bought the book, love the book. I've referenced it a few times. I bought all 3 of your books.
My only fan.
Yes.
My fan.
Well, if you've only had 3 Amazon sales, then
it's going to be awkward when I see you. I just want to be clear. When I hug you, you're like, this guy, I guess I don't even know what the PC word is, gay or homosexual. I'm so lost in society, but people are going to assume when I grab your ass, they're going to be like, this guy's gay. It's okay. Because you motivate me, bro. Every time you text me, every time you're like, are you going to record that? I'm like, I have a recording that I recorded the other day that I'm going to share with you that it's never going to be for sale because it's like it's just a bunch of young 6 kids in a room, me beating them up. And I'm like, this guy Joe is going to go off when I see you, I'm going to hug you. I'm like, you are my fan.
That's awesome. Yeah, I
am.
A
good thing. And I think we should be fans. I'm fans of my mentor. I love my mentor. To this day, 1999, he let me ride with him. I've never paid him. He blows me off. I know he puts me on ignore when I'm desperate. I'm like, I got to get this deal. But just the other day I called him and he made me $20,000 by say this or negotiate that. Okay. But anyway, how I got into the book, what do you want me to talk about? Like when I was broke and homeless?
What do you want to hear? So the reason why I'm your number one fan is because number one, you're real. You bring out the truth. You're telling everyone the real story. You started with nothing. You grew it into something massive, and that's inspirational, and that motivates me every day.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at SavvyRadioShow.com. Connect on Twitter @LandlordBook and always be buying assets.